Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing what I'm going to call the Series 1.5 Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean. The original launched in 2005. The three-hand date version was based on a caliber 2500. In 2011, it was updated with a ceramic bezel, and by then it had caliber 8500. But in between the two, there was a period when you could get the original anodized aluminum bezel with the newer display case back and caliber 8500 movement. And that's what we have here today. 45.5 millimeters in stainless steel. The watch measures 51.5 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Because this one is on a NATO-style strap, the compound thickness of the two together is 19.4 millimeters. But if it's just crystal to crystal, the actual thickness of the case of the watch is 16.7. My wrist, you may know if you've watched these videos before, is 16 centimeters in circumference, and it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to portray how a NATO strap is going to look if you don't actually strap it down and buckle it. But this gives you a good idea. You can see, pulled taut, it flares considerably beyond my wrist, but the NATO strap was designed for military applications when utilitarian fit concerns took precedence over aesthetics, and so it's got that rough and ready military look to it. It was used by everyone from foot soldiers to combat swimmers to aviators, who in particular valued the fact that the underslung character of the NATO would prevent high-altitude temperature extremes from being conducted from the metal through to their wrists. And you can see it does wear quite large. A 16-centimeter circumference wrist is probably the lower limit to wear this watch. It would wear compact on a regular strap, a bit more perhaps, but not much more. The limiting factor here is going to be the 51.5 lug-to-lug and the thickness of the case, which at 16.7 is still considerable. And you can see it's going to get hung up on a cuff. This is not a watch to disappear beneath a sleeve. The strap, however, is of very high quality. Omega NATOs are beautiful, but as you can see, they are not pure NATOs. We have a conventional buckle and aperture system, so it doesn't use a gooseneck crimping lock the way a conventional NATO would be sized and locked in place. This is pretty much just like wearing a normal watch strap, albeit with a lot more gathered material. You have the double layering, you have a lot of metal hardware as a strap minder system, but you can also see that it acts as a loop through which the underslung system grips the bottom of the watch. Now, if you want, you can put a regular bracelet or a strap on this watch. The NATO is a beautiful piece, and you can see Omega steel hardware is even branded. Lyre-style lugs, we know this case well. It's been around on Omega watches of the Speedmaster and Seamaster family since the early 60s. Satin-finished mid-case, inner and outer bevels on the lug profiles, and then a polished bevel that runs end to end. We have here a nicely detented, crisp feeling, crisp sounding 120 click bezel with a nice sharp knurling that makes it easier to grip than the somewhat slippery design on the Diver 300 meters from Omega. And of course, we do have the vivid anodized orange aluminum that was characteristic of the earlier Planet Oceans, and I really like it because, of course, orange is sort of a signature color for the Planet Ocean, and I like that the dial matches, the bezel matches the strap. You can also see that the dial is matte black to resist glare. Then we have rhodium-plated broad arrow-style hands, a little nostalgic touch, along with the tri-Arabic numerals, applique indices, an upscale look. Of course, we have caliber 8500 here. Now, on a regular strap, you'd be able to see through the case back, but I have many other reviews of Omegas with caliber 8500, so check those out if you want to see what it looks like. I'll talk about the specs, though. Let's do a quick loom shot just so you can see what the watch looks like in the dark. You can see Omega used two different loom colors, so two-tone looms, so you can easily distinguish the bezel pearl and the minute hand, because those are most pertinent if you are using the bezel as a dive timer. And of course, I've always preferred dive bezels to chronographs because I find that most of what I want to measure is an hour or less, and it's easier to read a big scale, plus you don't have the downstream service costs that you'd have on a chronograph. So this is a tri-level coaxial. The 8500 caliber was built as a coaxial from the base plate up. It wasn't a conversion of an existing ETA or Valjoux caliber. That's why this version of the coax has a reputation for longevity, precision, durability, and long intervals between services. It's a bidirectional automatic winder, 2 barrels, 60-hour power reserve. The nice thing about the twin barrels is you don't get the big amplitude drop-off after 24 or 36 hours that you get with a single barrel movement. Now screw the crown out, 600 meters water resistant. We have a helium escape valve. It too can be threaded out if you know you're going to engage in a dive. Saturation diving can result in helium entering the watch, and this valve allows that helium to exit when the internal pressure exceeds external pressure by about 2 to 3 bar. Most divers will never need it, but if you do, it's fun, and if you don't, it's a wonderful conversation piece. Now, the watch has 2 setting modes. One is hacking or stop seconds, so you stop the seconds hand. You could set the watch to a reference time. The other is a sort of time zone function, where the minute hand isn't displaced, the seconds hand keeps ticking, and then I can set my hour hand forward or backwards as I jump time zones, even jumping the date disc forward or backwards depending on whether I'm moving east or west. The 39 joule movement beats away at 25,200 vibrations per hour, which is a unique beat rate that Swatch Group brands reserve for silicon hairspring movements. And with the silicon hairspring and an anti-magnetic escapement, this is a highly anti-magnetic watch. It also is braced against shock with a full balance bridge and a free sprung balance, which makes it quite tough in that regard. And though you can't see it, it features a handsome, if machine-rendered, arabesque Cote de Genève across rotor and bridges with both black polished and actual blackened screws. It is a COSC certified Swiss chronometer, so it has that feather in its cap as well. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.